Hey, good morning. Happy Monday. We get another incredible week to continue building the lives and the careers that we want. And this is video 2 or part 2 of the leadership series. So last week we talked about self-leadership. This week we're talking about team leadership. And then next week I'm going to be coming out with the third part focusing on organizational leadership. So I'm really excited because there's a lot of frontline and mid-level managers where they started their careers as individual contributors and then they're promoted into these team leadership positions without ever really being trained on how to become a team leader. And so because of that, they continue operating as individual contributors. And what ends up happening is they choke their team because of micromanagement. And then after that, we'll talk about how that leads to a death spiral for the whole team. So in this video, what we're going to be focusing on is what is the transition from self-leadership to team leadership? And then we're going to talk about how do you accelerate that transition. So maybe right now you are a contributor and you're leading yourself, but you want to accelerate into that team leadership position. Well, we're going to talk about how to do that. And then the third part is understanding self and team leverage. Now, what I mean by leverage is how do you get more out of yourself, and then how do you get more out of your team? And then we're going to talk about maximizing your teams. So there are some specific pillars that you want to be able to build, construct, and make extremely strong in order to make sure you're maximizing your team. And then we're going to talk about a team leader's worst mistake. And this is, I promise that you've seen this. You've either experienced it or maybe you might have made this mistake yourself, but this single mistake is the difference between growing your career as a team leader and then eventually an organizational leader, or being permanently stuck in where you are. So then we're going to talk about what are the 3 most important qualities of a team leader, and every leader who wants to develop themselves and eventually become an organizational leader must have these 3 qualities. And then finally is we're going to talk about a team leader's primary objectives. So for any leadership position where you're managing a group of people to accomplish common outcomes or common objectives, there are going to be specific things that you as the team leader or as the manager must be able to do. So with that, we have a lot to cover. Let's dive in. All right, so let's dive into the first part, which is understanding the transition from self-leadership to team leadership. So this transition will only ever happen in your career when you've proven to whoever it is that is your manager or whoever's making these decisions that you have the ability to not only manage yourself, but to manage other people. And to not only do what you need to do, but to also help other people and contribute to other people achieving what they need to do. So what this means is you need to prove yourself, and it starts with self-leadership. And that's what we talked about last week. And the way that you can think about this is if you can't handle your own money, why would anybody give you more responsibility to manage other people's money? If you can't manage your own work or your own schedule or meet your own deadlines and objectives, why would anybody ever give you more responsibility to then manage other people's budgets, money, deadlines, objectives, schedules, responsibilities, ownership, anything like that? So what happens is oftentimes in the workplace, people believe that they deserve to be promoted and put into leadership positions, and yet they haven't even mastered themselves. They haven't managed their own schedules. They're constantly frenetic because they have so much going on and they're running around like crazy. Well, when other people perceive you as that person doesn't have their stuff together, they're not going to see you as a leader who's capable of managing not only themselves, but then all of the additional responsibility of other people. And so the very first thing we need to do in order to advance into a team leadership and then eventually an organizational leadership is we must master ourselves. And that starts with self-leadership. And so once we've done that, then really what a team leadership position is saying is not only do I need to now manage or must I be able to manage work, not only my own work, but everyone else's work as well, but I must be able to manage relationships. And that is the big stepstone from self-leadership to team leadership. Self-leadership is really about optimizing our own performance, hitting 90 to 100% a day, developing ourselves, dominating our work, adding more value. But when we make that transition to team leadership, yes, it's about the performance and the work, but also, and arguably even more important, is we must be able to manage people and relationships. Cool. So now let's talk about the second part, which is, okay, we understand this transition, but how do we accelerate this transition? And the reason I say we need to accelerate this transition is because if you're working at a Fortune 500, they're trying to move an enormous amount of people through a career development program, through a career plan. And so what that means is anywhere you're working, there's going to be a preset structure for how long you need to be in a position, for how long you need to be doing something. And pretty much once you get to a certain point up at the top, you're essentially waiting for someone to either die, retire, or go somewhere else. And when we're early in our career, we're pretty much just sitting in a seat, twiddling our thumbs after a while, just waiting. Like, okay, I've been here for 2 years. When am I going to get promoted? I've been here for 3 years. When's something going to happen? And so what this means is we must be proactive in our careers. We can't just sit around waiting for someone to pay us more money or to promote us. And that is what this is all about, is going from a contributor position to a team leadership position, and we're the ones driving that transition, and we're accelerating it. So there's a couple key points that we have to and must do in order to make that happen. So the very first thing is we need to master self-leadership. And again, we talked about that in part 1, but if we cannot manage and master ourselves, then no one will ever give us the opportunity to manage other people, because we haven't even proven that we can do it ourselves. So that is step 1, is we need to manage ourselves, our work. We need to outperform. We must set a vision and goals for ourselves, and then be able to execute, make progress, and then prove that to other people. So the second part is we need to add more value. Now, what I mean by this is in your current position, assuming you're a contributor right now, in your current position, you have specific responsibilities. And in your job description, wherever it is that you decided to work, you walked in with expectations that I'm going to be responsible for these things and I need to do great work. Now, you might add more value in terms of you exceeded your expectations. Well, that's great. But the problem is those are still your individual responsibilities. What you must be able to show someone in order to move up within an organization is you must be willing to and able to show someone that not only can I handle my own responsibilities and excel, but I can take on additional responsibilities, or I can come up with creative new projects or creative new solutions in order to add more value to the team. Now, think of adding more value as, are you saving time? Are you saving money? Are you increasing revenue? Are you improving systems and technology to make things more efficient, to eventually save man hours so that people then have more time to be able to add more value? So it's all about, at the end of the day, are you saving time? Are you saving money? Are you increasing revenue or increasing profitability or something along those lines? But when you think about value, think about it. Am I able to make this tangible? Can I quantify the value in terms of either time or money or money? All right, so then we have the third part, which is invest in personal development. Now, this could be books, this could be courses, this could be coaching, this could be going out of your way to find a mentor, someone within the company or outside of the company who's willing to meet with you every 2 to 3 weeks or maybe every month or so. But in some way, shape, or form, you must be developing your own skills, knowledge, and experiences. And there's a quote that I love. It's by Jim Rohn. And what he says is, you must work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And the reason for that is a lot of people, they work so hard on their job. But the problem is by working that much harder in your job, you yourself are not becoming more valuable. And the only amount of value that you can serve and contribute to your position or to your team is whatever you're capable of. And so in order for us to add more value to the organization or to the team, we must become more valuable. Well, the only way to increase the value of something is by investing in it. And so investing for ourselves is going to be time, energy, and resources. So financial resources usually. So then we need to take on additional responsibility beforehand. Now, the key part here is beforehand. So there's two camps, and the vast majority of people fall into one camp, which is I work hard, I'm performing, look at my results, I deserve to be paid more money. I deserve to get a promotion and be in the next position. Well, that's one way to think about it, and that's how the vast majority of people think about it. But they're sitting and waiting for the opportunity to do something and then get paid for that thing. And that's how the majority of people think and operate, and that's exactly why they're not the ones getting the positions. And so instead, how we want to think about it is, I'm going to invest in myself. I'm going to become even more valuable so I can add more value. And once I know that I'm capable of adding more value, I'm not going to ask anybody. I'm just going to assume more responsibility. I'm going to take it on myself before anybody ever gives me the title or gives me the money or anything. I'm just going to start doing it myself. I'm going to take on more projects. I'm going to start building something that is going to add and significantly benefit the team or other people. And by doing it beforehand, what that's going to do is you're going to prove to the people who are the decision makers, you're going to prove to them that you're capable of doing the work. Well, the biggest risk in hiring somebody or the biggest risk in promoting somebody is, well, what if we hire them or what if we promote them and they suck? What if they can't do what if they don't perform? What if they're unable to do what is required to do? Well, what you're doing by assuming the responsibility and proving it beforehand is you're mitigating that risk. You are literally taking that risk off of the table because you can now show them, hey, I've already been doing this. I'm capable of it. You can look at, X, Y, and Z. I've proven to you that I'm capable of doing this. All I ask for now is the position and an increase in pay, because if I'm going to be doing these additional responsibilities, I think it's only fair that if I'm contributing more value, that I should be paid more. And that leads to the very last part, which is negotiate. The only way you are ever going to break out of the very traditional mold of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, X number of years in a specific position for a company is you must be able to negotiate your responsibilities, your position, as well as your compensation. And it's going to be through assuming more responsibility beforehand, proving yourself, and then negotiating for opportunities. All right, so now let's talk about self and team leverage. And after the last section, you might have been wondering, okay, that's great. Take on additional responsibility with what time or energy? And if we don't have time to take on additional responsibilities, it means that we have not fully leveraged ourselves yet. So the very first thing that we need to do is we need to leverage ourselves through these 4 means in order to open up time and capacity so that we can begin taking on these additional responsibilities beforehand, prove ourselves so that we can negotiate for increased promotion, responsibility, and ultimately compensation. So we must leverage ourselves first. But then after we leverage ourselves, then ultimately when we are in a team leadership position, we need to not only leverage ourselves, but we need to leverage our entire team and everybody on it. So there's only 4 ways to create leverage. I mean, at least the 4 most practical ways in terms of business and performance. But the first is eliminate. So right now, whatever you're doing or whatever other people on the team are doing, there's going to be a lot of low value, repetitive, busy work. And it's just BS work. It's not adding value to anyone. It's not really doing much of anything. It's just routine. We're doing it because we've always done it. And so what I challenge you to first think through is, what are all of the activities that I do? So just kind of take a blank sheet of paper. If I were to do this, so just take a blank sheet of paper and again, split it down the center, and on the top on one side, just write, what are all of the things that I currently do? And just start brain dumping, brain vomit all of the things that you do. And then over here, I would kind of cut it. So it'll be kind of cut down the middle and then cut across here. And on this side, I would say high value and low value. So on the top quarter, you want to put high value items. And on the bottom here, you want to put low value items. And then what you want to do is go through, after you're done organizing that, go through the low value items and ask yourself, which of these can I eliminate? And if you can eliminate something, that immediately, without causing any more work or investment or anything, it's poof, you've created capacity for yourself. And no one's really going to be stressed about it because it was low value anyways. So the very first thing is eliminate. This is the most efficient way to open time up and energy for yourself. But then the second thing is technology and tools. So a simple example is, think of farming. Previously, way back when, everything was done by hand. Well, it was very manual labor, and it took an enormous amount of time and an enormous amount of energy. Well, slowly but surely, there was the agricultural revolution, and then there was all sorts of innovation in technology, the industrial, and so now farming has become extremely efficient. Well, there's parts of farming that are still manual labor, but they're more efficient because they have better tools and technologies. And so for you, whatever it is that whatever it is that you do, I'm sure that there was way back when, or I mean, even in the beginning, it was very inefficient because it was still manual labor. But through using different tools, softwares, technologies, whatever, it's become a lot more efficient. So for us to maximize our time and leverage ourselves, the second step is to use the most effective tools and technologies that are currently available to make our manual labor even more efficient. But then after we've done that, the third thing is we need to create systems. And systems allow us to do something repeatedly and more efficiently at a higher quality, more predictably. And so we want to create systems wherever possible. And the reason we want to create systems is because that allows the output, whatever the final product is, it becomes predictable and step by step by step. So that means that in terms of the high skilled worker who needed to have the knowledge, the skills, the experience in order to create the system, once the system is created, it doesn't require the same level of skill in order to run it. And so what that allows us to do is we create these systems, which the high skilled worker, so you would need to create this system, but then once it's created and it becomes repeatable, then it can be delegated to a lower skilled worker or someone else who's not as skilled or as knowledgeable or experienced as you are. And that becomes another form of leverage where you're able to pass off this high value activity to a lower skilled worker because it has been systematized. And then the very fourth part is ultimately, whoever these lower skilled workers are, you want to be able to automate their work. Now, that is the huge discussion as people go, oh my God, these people are losing jobs. They're not losing jobs as long as leadership is competent. And what I mean by that is when you automate something, you're going to have a lot of cost savings and a lot of time efficiency. Well, what we want to do, what a really phenomenal leader would do, is all of the time and money that they're saving by automating these low-skill, repetitive things, they're going to take all of those efficiencies and all of those cost savings and consistently reinvest them into the low-skilled workers and their other workers, because they want to raise the bar of the entire organization for all of the workers within the company. And the way to do that is through training and development, investing in resources that are going to make those, the lower skilled workers, that is going to make all of them more valuable and be able to be more creative and add more value to the organization. So again, in order to leverage first ourselves, and then we negotiate, we become a team leader, and then ultimately we need to leverage everyone else, we must become masters of this process of understanding what can be eliminated, what is low to little value, and just kill it, just get rid of it. So we eliminate it, and then we invest in technology and tools to make manual labor more efficient, and then we create systems, and then with repeatable outcomes through systems, we're able to delegate high-skilled work to lower-skilled workers because it's now systems dependent. And then ultimately what we want to do is invest even further into automating these lower-skilled activities or these lower-skilled systems and take the cost savings and the efficiencies and invest them into training and development to boost the overall skill level of the entire organization. All right, so now that we've talked about leverage, now let's talk about how to actually maximize your team as a team leader. And there are 4 main points that I want to cover. Now, is this everything you can do to maximize your team? No, but I believe that these are 4 really important things that must be covered. So the first part is leadership. And I'll start by, there's a quote that's often quoted by Tony Robbins and several other people, but it's, when put in command, take charge. And one of the biggest things that a lot of people don't do when they're put in leadership positions is they're very hesitant to make decisions. They're constantly worried about, well, what if I make the wrong decision? And so what they do is they delay making a decision, and that destroys the team, because the team is looking to the leader for vision, clarity, direction, and plans for execution. So the very first thing you must do to maximize your team is you must be able to make decisions. And then the second thing is you must be able to plan. And so as a team leader, what's going to happen is your organizational leaders, they're going to be creating strategic initiatives or strategic direction for the company, for the organization, whatever it is. And they're going to be passing those down into the team leaders that are managing the contributors. So your role as a team leader is you must be able to take those strategic initiatives, formulate the plan around how can my team implement this, and then you must be able to actually delegate and assign responsibility and ownership to the people on your team in order to get that plan done. So that part, the final part here, delegating responsibility, it doesn't mean that you're going to have your hands in every single thing. It means that you're actually giving the responsibility and the ownership to other people on your team, and you're trusting them to get it done. And that is not micromanagement. Micromanagement is when you don't actually delegate. You have your hands in every single pie and you're trying to control everything. That kills and chokes the team. We'll talk about that in the next section. So you must be able to delegate. And then the next part is communication. And communication is crucial because it's not the responsibility of everyone else to communicate with each other on what is going on. It's the role of the leader to communicate to the team the outcomes, the purpose of the outcomes, as well as performance and progress that the team is making. And so kind of quickly how these two go together, outcomes and purpose, is oftentimes you'll have someone say, do this, or we need to do this. And then people are left wondering, why? Why is this important? We have so many other things to do. Why is this important? And what that leader has failed to do is describe the purpose and the benefits of achieving these outcomes. And so your team leadership position, you must be able to not only explain to people what it is that we're trying to achieve, but why is it so important? And most importantly, why is it important to them? Because again, influence is you can only influence somebody if you're speaking in terms of their self-interests. No one's ever going to be motivated by your own personal reasons. We need to find the reasons of the other people and then motivate them, inspire them, and influence them using their self-interests. And that's tying in the purpose with them. And then performance and progress is, as the contributors, they're going to be focused on their individual pieces of executing whatever plan or project it is. And so you as the leader, you're going to have the higher level view where you're able to see everything and how it's coming together. And so it's also your responsibility to be able to communicate how things are going, the progress that they're making, and to continue inspiring the team that, hey, we're doing phenomenal work. This is happening. This is where we are. This is how much progress we've made. Keep it up. We only have this much further to go. So then the third point is similar to what we talked about in the last section of leverage. How do we leverage ourselves and our teams? So you as the leader, it's your responsibility to focus on improving the technology and systems for the team in order to maximize the team's efficiency and ability and how much value the team is able to add. But then with those efficiencies, both time efficiencies and cost efficiencies, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're consistently reinvesting into the people on your team through training and development to make them, to improve their skills, to improve their knowledge, and ultimately their experiences so they can add more value to the team. And then the final part is managing emotions and relationships. So the single biggest problem on teams is human relationships. You could have the best people in the world, but if they don't get along, the whole team implodes. And so as the team leader, not only must you absolutely be able to manage your own emotions, but you must be able to manage the conflict, the relationships, and the emotions of all the people on your team, which is extremely difficult to do. And that's why you need to invest in yourself continuously in the soft skills, the leadership skills, the influence, the persuasion, the negotiation, all of those crucial soft skills, because you'll only ever be an effective leader if you're able to influence all of the other people on your team. All right, so now let's talk about the worst mistake that a team leader can make. And this is something that you've probably seen firsthand, or you've seen it in another team, or maybe even you accidentally made this mistake yourself. So the most important thing that we must not do as leaders is we must not choke our teams. And micromanagement is physically choking our team from doing what they're capable of doing. Imagine taking the responsibilities of 8 people and view it as a giant tube of these 8 people's responsibilities and work, all then have to be funneled down into one person. That is micromanagement. And so by doing so, you're bottlenecking and choking the productivity, the value, the contribution of your team to the organization. And so we must not choke our teams. We cannot be micromanagers. We must be willing to develop our team members and then delegate the ownership and the responsibility to them. Now, no one is ever going to do the job 100% as well as you. And that's okay, because most likely you're probably more experienced and you've probably done whatever it is for a lot longer or for many more repetitions than the people on your team. And so as a leader, we cannot have the expectation that whoever it is that's going to be doing this after me, and they're going to have the responsibility and the ownership, we cannot expect them to do it as well as we do, because they don't have the skills, the knowledge, and experience at the same level that we do. And so as a leader, when we delegate, it's how can we get them to perform at 80 to 90% of what we were capable of doing so that they can hit the ground running and perform, but consistently get better over time. So as a leader, we are going to delegate the ownership and the responsibility to other people on our team so that we can continue growing not only ourselves, but helping everyone else on the team as well. But what happens if we don't? What happens if we do choke the team and we do micromanage everybody, their projects, their responsibilities, their outcomes? We start formatting everything for them over and over and over again, and we're focusing on all this low value stuff. Well, what's going to happen is people on the team will feel like they have no ownership over what it is that they're doing. And when they feel like they have no ownership, well, then that leads to a sense of no autonomy. They can't make decisions. Everything has to be double or triple checked by someone else. And so eventually the contributor throws up their hands and they're like, well, F this, I can't even make any decisions. And I feel like everything is going to be redone anyways. So why bother? Why try? And so that no autonomy then leads to no creativity, no additional value add. And so then that contributor doesn't feel creative, and which means that they feel like a cog in a machine. They're just doing exactly what they've been told to do over and over and over again. Well, that takes away the pride. That takes away the self-esteem in the work, that this work, the outcome that I'm producing defines me. It's an expression of what I'm capable of achieving. When we're micromanaged, that sense of self-esteem in our work completely vanishes. And so when there's no pride, that leads to no satisfaction in the work, which then leads to really a sense of no fulfillment or meaning. We feel like we're not really doing anything important. We're just being told what to do and doing it. We feel like robots, and we feel like we're not making an impact. And so when we have the sense of no fulfillment or meaning, then that leads to a sense of no growth. Why am I here? I'm not getting better. I'm not learning anything. I'm not consistently challenging and improving myself. And so we feel like we're not growing, which leads to boredom. Boredom then eventually leads to resentment. Resentment of the team leader, resentment of the current situation that person is stuck in because they feel stuck. And then that resentment eventually leads to a bad culture on the team and bad attitudes. And so even if it's that person might be putting on an incredible face, but inside they're dying inside. And so that leads to churn because people are walking in, they're putting on their show faces, they're smiling and they're doing their best, but they're dying inside. And people can only live with that for so long. And so what that leads to is employee churn or team member churn. Well, as more and more people leave the team, it gets extremely expensive for the team and for the organization because now they've lost productive team members that already know how to do the work, that are producing, and now they have to not only invest in the time, the energy, and the resources to go find someone else, but now they have to bring that person in and invest in their training and development to get them up to speed. So micromanagement is extremely expensive for organizations and for teams. And so after people leave, then the rest of the people on the team, they feel overworked. And on top of that, they still have the bad culture and the bad attitudes. And so what this eventually leads is to a death spiral. And there's a lot of companies that have, they haven't mastered this transition of getting their leaders from an individual contributor mindset to a team leader mindset. And oftentimes when someone is micromanaging, what it means is they have not developed themselves as a leader. They're still operating as a contributor, believing that they're the ones that need to do everything. And that is the biggest chokehold on a team. Cool. So now let's talk about 3 qualities that the best leaders, the best team leaders, consistently demonstrate to the members on their team. So the first part is they lead by example. And an example of this is Elon Musk. So if we were to look at his leadership style, how he communicates, he's very direct, he's honest, he works harder than really anyone else in the company, and he sets expectations, but those expectations he didn't set verbally, he set them physically. He himself was doing these things and created a standard that he lives by and inspires everyone else to live up to. And that is what leading by example is you're setting the standard at a bar much higher than most other people, and you're inspiring everyone else around you, your team members, as well as other people in the organization. You're inspiring them to get up to your level. And this is what's most important here is the transparency, the communication, and the honesty that you are willing to have with other people, as well as the physical work and how it is that you operate as an individual within the organization. So then the second part is servant leadership. So servant leadership can be thought of as a team leader who leads as a servant. That person views the team as the most valuable asset. They believe that 1 + 1 = 3. They believe that by taking these multiple people, putting them together and giving the team an outcome, the team is what's valuable. It's not any individual one person, and it's not me. So they believe that their primary responsibility is to serve the team and everybody on it, because they believe that the team is what's going to achieve the thing. So kind of the counterexample to this is many leaders believe that they're the most important person in the organization, or they're the most important one on the team. And it couldn't be anything further from the truth, because they are nothing without the team that supports them. It's like having someone on the top of a pillar. If you knock out the base, that person just crumbles. And it's the exact same way on a team. The leader is only as effective as the team is. And so the main responsibility of the leader is to serve everyone on the team, to make sure that if they need any help, if they need obstacles removed, if they need additional resources, if they need training and development, if they need a pep talk, if they need someone to help them with something specifically, it's the role of the team leader is to serve everyone on the team and help them to be as effective as possible. So then we have the third part, strategic leadership. And there's a difference between strategic leadership and just basic being in the role. But someone who's just basic and in the role, all they're doing is just getting things done. They're just saying, okay, we need to do this, and then we do it. But they're not focused on adding more value. They're not focused on creatively improving the situation for their team, for the project that they're working on. They're not focused on making things better. And so that is the third quality of the most effective leaders is they're focused on getting things done, but even more over and above that, they're focusing on how can we consistently invest and improve things for all the members on my team, but also for the value and what it is that we're ultimately trying to achieve. So that brings us to the final part of this video, which is talking about what are the primary objectives and responsibilities of a team leader, of an effective team leader. So I'm not going to elaborate super in depth on all of these, but I do want to go through these so you have an idea. So the first part is having the right people in the right places. Now, you've probably heard the phrase, be slow to hire and quick to fire. And it couldn't be more true, because the most important thing that you as the leader must do for the team is make sure you have the right people. And if you don't, you either need to get rid of them and find new people, or you need to move people in their seats to make sure that you are maximizing the whole team. So then the second part is training and development of your people. So consistently investing in improving the skills, the knowledge, and the experiences of the people on your team, because the more valuable that they become, the more value they can add to the team. And then ultimately, all of that is going to improve the performance and the value of the team. So then the third part is maximizing team efficiency. And that's what we talked about in a previous section, where how do you leverage your team through those 4 different pieces. So elimination, and then you have technology and tools, and then you have your systems and delegation, and then the 4th part is automation. So then after that, we have strategy, delegation, and communication. So you as the leader, you're going to have to determine what are we focusing on and how are we doing it. And then delegating out those responsibilities and ownership to other people and leading the communication for everyone on the team. Then we're going to have to focus on performance tracking and feedback. So everyone on the team is going to be focused on their thing, and they're not going to have that third party objective perspective. And that's, as the team leader, you're able to provide that perspective and help people see blind spots that they don't even know that they have. And so by providing that feedback, and it should be critical feedback, but it's with a good intention. It's for helping that person become better at what it is that they do. It's not just to criticize. So then it's supporting team and removing obstacles. So there are going to be people on your team that are trying to achieve something and they can't, because they either don't have the authority to make the decision, or they can't. They'll be restricted in some way, shape, or form. And so they might need you as the team leader to remove roadblocks. And that is you supporting your team. So taking the contributors or your team members' responsibilities just as seriously as your own is a part of your objective, because oftentimes it's the team leader who must be removing these roadblocks for the contributors. So then after that, we have improving systems and adding more value. So as a team leader, you're going to have a higher level perspective of all the different moving parts. And so it's also on you to be able to see, how could we be doing this more efficiently, and how can we be adding more value or creating more value in a new way that maybe we haven't done previously. And really quickly, there's a phrase that is rampant in corporate America, but it's, well, that's how we've always done it, or that's how we've been doing it. And it's the moment that someone says that, you know that their mind is turned off and they're not trying to improve anything. So as a team leader, you do not want to fall into that mindset. Always be asking, how can we be making this better? How can we be adding more value? So then after that, we have celebrating team members and providing visibility. So what this means is, it sounds ridiculous, but it's your responsibility to make other people feel important, to make them feel valuable, to make them feel like they're a very integral part of the team. They're necessary. They're doing great work. And we need to be providing lavish praise as a team leader to support everyone, especially to inspire them to the highest level of performance that they can achieve. And then the second part is providing visibility. Now, what visibility means is celebrating someone publicly. And so other people in the organization are able to see the tremendous and outstanding work that one person has been contributing. So that might be in a group meeting, it might be in a presentation, it might be an award ceremony or something. But for people who are doing outstanding work, you as the team leader are providing visibility to the rest of the organization in order to celebrate that person. So then we have decisions, deadlines, and managing expectations. If you're the leader, you're the one that must make the decisions. You must manage all the deadlines and really the project management. And then the last part is understanding managing expectations. And expectations form reality. How we think something will turn out will massively affect how it is that it is perceived by whoever that project or whatever that outcome, whoever that was for. So you as the team leader must manage expectations very well, both internally on your own team, but then also externally to any other stakeholders, whether it's, a board of directors or a senior manager or anyone else, or a client, a customer, etc. And then the final part that I want to talk about is managing emotions, relationships, and conflict. So as the team leader, it is your responsibility to be able to manage the human elements, the emotional parts of the team. And a lot of people say, this is business. You shouldn't bring your emotions into the workplace. That's like saying someone shouldn't bring themselves to the workplace. It's humans are emotional, and we will always make emotional decisions and justify with logic. So for a team leader to believe that they don't need, or they're not expected to be able to resolve conflict and work with the human relationships and the emotional parts of a team, it's crazy. So as a team leader, we must expect this and we must be great at it because people are the most important part of a team. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, this was the second part of the leadership series. Last week was self-leadership. This week was team leadership. Next week is going to be organizational leadership. I come out with these types of videos every Monday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern. And if you're currently thinking about making a change in your life or your career, I encourage you, go to my website, check out how I can help people and how I do help people. And if you're interested, I'd love to be able to speak with you. So have an amazing week. Continue building your life and your career, and let's make progress.